Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Freedom Hub's Accelerating Financial Freedom. I am your host, Jeff Cantor, and I wanted to welcome you today. We have an exciting episode for sure today. We are being sponsored by the MPHWF, which is the Marketplace for Health, Wealth, and Freedom.com website. We actually have these episodes recorded, and you definitely don't want to miss one. So to register, you want to go here and get yourself involved. Excuse me. And today we are featuring our special guest, Sam Piccione, and I wanted to, before we let him jump in here and talk about the debt network and especially the challenge today, which is a really exciting topic, let's review where we're at for a minute. So as I indicated, we are up on this website. When you get over here and you hover over the home, you'll notice there's the webinar tab. When you click on that, it takes you here. We actually do a series of webinars, 2 on Wednesdays about health and freedom. And then also in the evening on Thursday right now, in other words, we're doing the one related to getting control of your wealth, which is needless to say, pretty important. And then we also have the links at the absolute bottom for the various other channels, and the ones that are here are all under this section. We are also have a number of people, when you hover over this Fighting for Freedom section here, you'll discover, and this is really very important, these are a variety of organizations that are all out there for either your financial well-being, your health well-being, your liberties, and all the rest, but they're very, very important. You need to be cognizant of them. And we're always featuring issues that they're near and dear to their hearts. And sad to say, you really need to click on every one of these and take action because they're all that critically important. Now, for today, though, you'll notice we have our little wealth tab, and that's really where Sam gets to live. So we want to talk about how important it is to have your thing. The Debt Network Academy, very importantly, he'll talk about this, where you're going to be able to get a free analysis. And then also all the videos from past episodes are all archived over here. So on that note, let's kick it over to Sam and let's see what he's got in store for us tonight.
Okay, Jeff, well, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. I'm pretty excited to bring to you a really unique fast track. There's a lot of information here, and I think you can handle it. But we call this Take the DNA Challenge. One of the things that's important is we focus on bringing knowledge and facts to the forefront to help our clients, our friends, and our prospects make better financial decisions. And you can see, again, these are the websites for our sponsor of this particular educational program. So I've been around for 47 years. I'm not here to boast on my, if I was here to boast, I'd be a multimillionaire in the island somewhere. But I have helped people over 47 years throughout insurance, mortgages, real estate. And in my final stages here, I was enamored by a product, a software, that I generated a course around the software, and it's called What If Your Money Could Talk. And tonight, we have 1 or 2 guests on tonight that would like to give you a few minutes on the software and where they are in their life because of it. And by the way, we use it all personally. So let's move along and let's get this started. Few seconds there. Okay. So the financial industry encourages early investment and savings in their financial products. They promote long-term strategies to build wealth, and they hardly ever discuss debt. It's just an amazing subject that people feel you can handle it yourself, or in other ways like reading books and listening to CDs. So which is first for you? Does debt come first or savings? How about retirement? And what's your preference? You know, there are so many variations on a theme. There's IRAs, 401k, 403b if you're a teacher. You get tax deductions, or would you want tax-free? So this knowledge that we bring, especially this evening, is for you to get back to us. We have a free analysis program that will show you something beyond you've ever seen. So just quickly on a disclosure, my attorney I talked to a couple of weeks ago about this, and he said, yeah, you really need to put a disclosure up there. So there it is. You can read it, and it basically says that we're not trying to be a substitute for legal, accounting, or other professional advice by qualified professionals. However, myself and our team are licensed in various different financial programs, and we use our team in order to help you get more knowledge. In fact, next week we're going to be doing, before Thanksgiving, our last one before the holiday, an estate planning series, which we are very proud to be part of, that is in the cloud. And it's everything you need at your fingertips. Okay, so now that I got that out of the way. So there's three factors that we work on. How much time do you have? How much money is available? Now, I'm not talking about, putting the baby steps that you hear about from the infamous wealthy person. Take baby steps. Okay, we're just talking about if you have $100 a month, you can change your life, because it's all about math. So there's always a gap between short-term needs and long-term goals. Making financial decisions is very valuable. What you do now can even help you in just 2 years, or 4, or 30 if you're lucky to have that. If you're making decisions based on whatever benefits you're doing right now, you're always going to live what we call in the now. If you live in the now, the results have no wealth in retirement. There's just no way in your retirement years if you don't start planning even $100 a month. This is a unique little cliche. I don't know, some of you may remember Lee Iacocca. I had 3 Chrysler vans with 4 kids. But he said, we at Chrysler borrow money the old-fashioned way. We pay it back. And that's so unique, because most people are looking for ways of not paying it, and yet you can pay it back reasonably. And it's important to understand that it's your attitude about debt and whether or not you want to take action about saving just $100 a month. We can help. And if you can focus just 1 hour a month on the ability to focus on wealth, so that you can use a software that will help you get there. So how do you handle this challenge? Debt first, savings, retirement, principal guarantees, risk of principal. 2008, remember, we had the crash in 2008, 40% of the market dropped. You can't make that back in 2 years. So people are talking about tax deferred, tax deductions, tax free. All of this is so confusing. It's almost like taking a dartboard. So if you set goals, how do you see the results that you're planning 30 years from now? How do you see it today based on what you are choosing? That's how powerful our software is. So can you juggle all this stuff? Do you use a checkbook, a spreadsheet? Our software does it all. So where are you financially right now? How and when will you get control of your money? Who can help you find the true facts and no fluff? Look at all of the things we deal with. This is a very confusing slide. Sure it is, but this is reality. This is human life. Okay, especially with COVID, we had layoffs, we had unemployment collection. People were making 60, 70, now they're making 18,000. All of this, how do you deal with this? It's so difficult, and we've made it easy. So there's 3 questions I'd like you to ask yourself. What are you doing with your money today, right now? Could you answer that? How well are you doing? Do you even know how to evaluate how well you're doing? Well, what if what you're doing is not worth doing at all? In other words, when you wake up at 70, you realize, God, I should have listened to Sam and the Debt Network Academy. 45% of Americans have nothing, save nothing for retirement, including 40% of baby boomers. 80% between the ages of 30 and 54 still believe they will not have enough money for retirement. Why? It's because we're confused and we don't know which way to go first. So traditionally, people use a checkbook and they might have a fancy budget. But if you have advanced technology, which is what we're talking about, and you can find out about this by just simply requesting a confidential data cash flow form, and we don't ever need your Social Security number. And so the power of this, I did 2 last week, and we signed up 2 students. And it's really interesting because you're going to learn that just for a 90-day course, you can find out how to do course correction. So are you guessing using your checkbook and budget? Look at this. Which comes first, debt and interest, factorial math? Do you even know what factorial math is? We're going to take a couple slides and show you. How many debts do you have? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10? The average we've seen over the last 2.5 years doing the Debt Network Academy is 7. I don't know how you fare, but when you fill out the form, you can find that out. So what's the fastest way to 0? You don't know. I don't know unless we use this advanced software. How about retirement plan questions? IRAs, 401k, 403b. Which is best to start? When do you start it? Which age do you start it? And how much should you invest? How much can you invest? And what about controlling your credit? Should you refinance 3 times in 10 years to lower your rate? How do you know when to make the payment? By the way, just so you know, we have an episode on you don't have to pay your mortgage till the 15th or the 25th. In fact, my wife and I just changed our payment to the 25th instead of 15th because it doesn't affect your credit until after 30 days. So when do you pay it? So here's the factorial math effect. Now, I know the people on the right that write these books. I'm sure you all know them. All right. I've seen this bookshelf many times in the bookstore. In fact, I know Rick Edelman personally. So you've got Susie, you've got Rick, and you got Dave, and really you can read it, but it's not until you do it that you're going to find out. So let's take a look at the 7. There are 5,040 choices for you to pick which one, how much to pay, when to pay it, to get to 0 before reading the book. That sounds crazy, but it is true. So why is there so much confusion and lack of knowledge? Because the odds are against you. Factorial math is one of the first reasons why it's against you. You can't possibly figure out which one to pay. Now, you can use the baby steps and pay one off and then put it in the drawer and begin to live like a hermit. And then 10 years later, you wake up and you're debt free, but you have no clue what went on in the world. You had no lifestyle. In fact, one of our guests tonight is going to talk about the lifestyle that they created by using our software. So calculators, checkbook, baby steps. Most people talk to you financial professionals about starting your 401k. What about the match? You can read as many books as you want, but it's not going to help you because when you see it, you'll forget it. When you see that billboard, you're going to say, wow, that's cool, but you're going to forget it. When you read it, you'll remember it. But the key to this is when you do it, it's only then that you're going to understand it. 68% of the workers admit they don't know as much as they should about retirement investing. Why? Because it's not a course in high school, and it's probably elective. It wasn't even elective when I went to college. So this is a key thing, unless you want to get into the securities business, as I did, and then you learn that way. But the consumer doesn't have time for all that. 66% of pre-retires say they're behind on saving. 90% are that I talk to. And 48% of the workers don't know how much they'll pay for medical expenses. And by the way, Jeff, I know you have a health sharing program, and it's relevant not to retirement people, but people that are anywhere from the age of 18 to 65. I've looked at some of them who are saving people over 100 to 200 to even more a month.
Up to $1,000 a month, Sam, if it's a family. And before I even finish up on that, I see your statistics across the top here, and in reality, they're wrong because it's actually 100% in all 3 of those columns. This is the percentage willing to admit to it. But the truth is, I've been in the business a long time too, and no one really knows what's going on because of what you said before. There's no class, no one on purpose. They don't want you to know about these things. So, it's a good example when you sign up on that mortgage, like you're talking about, Sam. How long did it take that person read through that document? Or even if at all, but how long did it take for someone to create that document? It took months or years to craft a document that you spent 1 minute looking through. So I assure you, you don't know what's going on. But you're right. There's 2 options for people for managing their medical monies. If you're under 65, not in Medicare, then you can use medical cost sharing like you suggested, which is usually going to be about half or less and give you more features and benefits than a typical health insurance product. Things have evolved. Insurance is an old school mentality when it comes to your health care. And there's actually funds that you can actually put into a program that will actually double your dollars. So when I do have to pay for medical expenses, even into retirement years, I'm only going to pay 50 cents on the dollar. But unfortunately, Sam, that's a topic for another day. So continue on, please.
Okay, but I understand, and it's really relevant because we have people that are using the software that have saved $200 to $400 a month, and they're applying it to the software, saving it from their health program. And so I just felt it was relevant. But thank you for that, Jeff. Okay, so which comes first? Here's a retirement. This is $6,000 a year for 30 years, $500 a month, 4%. I'm just using a realistic number. You would wind up with $342,000. But understand that if you use the tax deduction method instead of a Roth, okay, when you get $342,000, if you take money out, let's say $50,000 you take out, you add it to your income of your regular income, your retirement income. And by the way, the average Social Security you're going to see in a second is over $1,500 a month. That's $18,000 a year plus $50,000 you took out. So I'm going to show you the history real soon in a couple slides. The reason why in 1974 an IRA made sense, but today I question that. How about $60,000? You know, you buy a house for $360,000, you throw $60,000 down, and you get a $300,000 mortgage, right? Instead of investing it at 4%, you'd have $194,000. Well, look at this. If you borrow $300,000 at just 4%, you're paying them $215,000 over 30 years to borrow $300,000. Our software can save you hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you can test it over a 90-day period. So is it traditional or Roth? Which alternatives do you take? Let's take a look at history. But before I do that, I want you to understand there are other investments, not just IRAs. Okay, I don't know if you've heard about tax-free life insurance. And life insurance has a tax-free advantage, but most people say, yeah, but it's only good if you die. And that's not true anymore either. So you've got all kinds of insurance, term insurance, whole life, universal. And now there's the most innovative, I've been doing this 47 years, this no-load universal life is worth looking at. If you fill out a form, one of our Debt Network Academy forms, we can get you a free illustration on how that works. But I'm not trying to promote life insurance, but understand there are other things around besides the Roth and besides the IRA. So which is it? Tax deferred? Do you want tax deductions? Or how about tax-free for life? And let's take a look at why that's so important. So here's a little history. Traditional versus Roth IRA. I know in 1974, I got into business part-time. That's when I started. So look, they created the IRA $1,500 a year. And you'd say today, you go like, what's that going to do? Well, look at this. If you make $12,000 in 74, your taxes are 25%, 25% tax bracket for $12,000. That made a lot of sense. And I didn't even go past 60,000. This is not the Dave Ramsey, the Rick Edelman, Susie Armans. We're talking about middle America here. You're making 40, 50, 60, 100,000. But look at that back. $64,000 was 55%. That's phenomenal. So what happened? Over time, as the tax rates changed, they had to increase it. And of course, they use the term of inflation, and you're getting an increase because of inflation. But the real fact is, sometimes it's not worth doing at all. So it now is up to $6,000 for a traditional IRA. But let's look at the brackets now. And this is where you have to say, should I do a Roth instead of a traditional? Should I freeze my traditional and then start a Roth? So look at this. That same $12,000, of course, instead of 24%, it's 12%. So to get into 24%, you have to make anywhere from $85,000 to $300,000 if you're married and as a couple. That's unbelievable. It was 60% at 65. It was actually 70% in 1974. So today, it's 518,000 or more, you're in a 37% bracket. However, I can tell you the controversy right now, we don't know what the tax rates are going to be. So Roth IRA starts to look really good. And there are limits, obviously, but you've got a lot of latitude. Head of household, you can make 124 to 139,000, and for married couples, it's pretty big. In other words, you can still invest in an IRA or a Roth IRA if you're making that kind of income. Okay, so tax now or tax later? Which one should you do? Tax brackets are very important. You're going to start to see why tax-free starts to make better sense. And we also have an episode in the past few weeks about Section 72T, where you can take your IRA money monthly, quarterly, or annually, or semi, even if you're 50 years old, and there is no penalty. That's a very exciting episode. It's 30 minutes, and if you get on to our Health, Wealth, Freedom, you can look it up and listen to it. Okay, so here's the challenge. Should you take a Roth? Should you take a traditional? Are you currently doing that? Okay, so look at the different, at 3%, if you put 6,000 for 30 years, and now, the actual time now is elevated to age 72. It used to be age 70, where you have to take it. But now it's 72. So imagine just compounding tax-free. I believe the power of tax-free is a lot better for middle America, because the other wealthy people in the 400,000 and up, they're finding other avenues, such as depreciation on real estate, commercial buildings, etc. So if you can take a quick look, these are the S&P 500. 20-year average is 4%, and that's why I like to use 4%. All right, but in 5-year it averaged 9.4. 10-year is 11.2. As most of you know, you double money at 7.2% every 10 years. So it's quite powerful. The Roth is tax-free, and you could it'll literally last at age 72, to age 93, and then average Social Security is going to. Hopefully, we keep getting that. Of course, I don't have to worry about 30 years, neither me or Jeff. So always remember, these tax brackets are so leveraged that it's really important. The more money you make, the better the Roth IRA gets to be. So I just wanted to throw this in because Section 77OT of the tax code is the reason why life insurance is not taxable. It's not taxable to your heirs. It's not taxable if you take the money out. There are limitations. You can't throw $30,000 a month in unless you have a $10 million policy. So there are guidelines, just like the IRA. But to understand that life insurance plays a deep role because of Section 7702, and it's important to understand that you should look at all of these things. And we have a unique team that does that for you at the Gmail at Time Money Math. You send us an email and you want to take a look at variations of the life insurance programs. And in fact, living benefits is something you probably never heard of. And you don't have to die to have your heirs get the insurance. This is about you when you're alive, especially for health insurance. And we're going to have an episode on that in a short time. So which choices are you making? Are you using a Roth? Are you using a traditional? Okay. It's really important to stop right now at the end of the year. We're right there. And we still don't know what's going to happen next year. But the point is, this is about you. It's not about me. How do you find out what you're doing and if you're making a mistake? How can you possibly keep track of all your debts, the various interest rates, different dates to pay, minimum payments? It's so confusing. And you know what? Baby steps will work, but you will change your lifestyle if you use the software. So if you do the math, where does our money go? Think about that. We live checkbook to checkbook. That's because we try to pay everything on the 1st. And like I said earlier, you can pay your mortgage on the 15th or the 18th. You look at your cash flow using the software, and it helps you evaluate which one when you should pay it, how much you should pay. Okay, this is really cool because there's a book that I read way back, and it came out in 1991 by this Tony Hom, and it was Smart, Successful, and Broke. And when I got to Merrill Lynch in 91, I actually read that book, and I had brokers that were driving around in $80,000 cars. Like it's just amazing, but it's true. We can be smart, we can be successful, but quite frankly, we could also be broke. How do you do that? Look at the debt, the personal debt. This was just Monday. Okay, personal debt per citizen, 63,000 of debt. I have 2 or 3 students right now with student debts in the $39,000 to $49,000. Okay, student loan debt is up to $1.7 billion. So look at the cost. This is incredible. This is a 4-year public college today. With room and board, it's $26,000 a year times 4 if you get out in 4. I had 2 kids that went 5. All right. So anyway, 4-year public colleges. And if you're out of state, which is one of the reasons why I actually moved to South Carolina. I have 4 kids, went to University of South Carolina for $8,000 a year back then. Okay, again, traditional checkbook, budget, or advanced technology. When you get in the car and you start up a new car, everything is recorded there. What's your oil pressure? What are the things that you need to look at? You're down on antifreeze, whatever. You need to bring your car in for tires. Your tire's low in the back right. It's unbelievable. Yet we still use checkbooks and calculators like we were in 1955. All you do is request a confidential data form, no social security number. We run a free analysis. I give you 30 minutes to an hour and evaluate what you're doing. So how do you decide which debt? Look at this. This is a recent person I'm working with. Obviously, you don't know who it is. They're from anywhere USA. But this is typical. These are 8 debts. There's a mortgage. They really just took it out a few, 2.5 years ago. They got excellent credit, but they're managing and juggling all this. And he's actually paying his daughter's student loan. See, a lot of people, when they fill this out, they don't put that down because it's their daughter's loan, but they're paying it. So I encourage people to put everything down, and we can really give you a fair analysis. So remember factorial math. 8 debts, 40,320 choices before you can figure out which one, when to pay it, how much to pay to get to 0 in less than 10 years. I know there isn't a CPA that can do that. It takes technology. So look at this. This was the mortgage debt. Here's another client, debts to be paid off. You got other loan debt, $624,000. People see these things and they go, do I owe this amount of money? I didn't fill out the form. They did. So think about this. Principal debt plus interest. If you wait 30 years, they're going to pay back $954,000 on owing $624,000. And you can, that's 2.6 years of this guy's income all going to interest. So what does your financial DNA look like? We know that everybody's health DNA is different. It's extremely different, even if your children are different from one another. It's the way it is in health. It's also the same when it comes to financial. Again, no social security numbers, no account numbers, the free analysis. Right here, look at this, 6.1 years, potentially, they're going to save $132,000 in 6 years, and they've already saved in 2.5 years, $39,000 of interest the bank never gets. That's pretty powerful. All right. This was something that came in. I want you to just see this. I get emails from different financial planners too that are looking for help with their clients. But this was a doctor, and look at what he said. I'm a new attending physician for a private employer, and I owe a lot of money. I have the following debts. So instead of filling out the form, he listed them. That's cool. It doesn't matter. That'll work. I would also like to get started investing. My employer offers a standard 401k and will match the first $6,000 that I invest. My stay-at-home spouse and I are excited about storing backdoor Roth IRAs. Question, how can we decide when to pay back loans and when to invest? This was amazing. This was a couple months ago, and they're actually in North Carolina. I have 2 financial planners out there in North Carolina. So isn't that unique? They're all trying, and by the way, the baby steps in the books don't work. So I would like to bring on now one of a personal friend, as well as, I want to unmute him here.
And before you get everybody rolling there, let me throw in 2 cents here, okay, Sam?
Yes, absolutely.
The obvious comment from what you've shown so far is why it's important to be ahead of the debt side of your world and why you want to be focused at the same time on the wealth side. But the other point to make that no one sort of brought up, because again, you're mentioning a lot of the elephants in the room that no one else does. But when you were showing that screen with all of that student loan debt and the credit card debt and, you know, that debt screen that shows all of the money that's owed in the country, that's part of that debt clock screen, as it were. If you add all that money up, you know what? And you add up all the dollars that have been printed, there's more debt than there's actual money circulating on the planet. So what's going to happen to you when those musical chairs come to an end?
That's an excellent point, Jeff. Yep. It's kind of scary, isn't it?
It's very. So it's so important on you on an individual basis to not stick your head in the sand or think, you know, somehow it's going to work out on the end. The industry is it a juggernaut to its own destruction of printing money on paper that hasn't even been printed yet, type of a thing. And you can't be caught with a lot of debt like this screen you're showing here when the music stops.
Yes. And that's really what happened in 2008 when the market crashed and everybody had to walk, not everybody, but 30 some odd % of people walked away from their house. We had to. We walked away from ours. And so it's really important. This is why I get so passionate about this, because managing cash flow and debt is what corporations do every week. That's why they let people go, because their cash flow went down and they can't manage what they're paying out, so they let people go. Well, we can't do that, but we can make some dumb mistakes over our lifetime. You know, new cars every 2 years. I used to do it. Every 2 years, I got a new car. What's the difference? Another payment. Okay, well, thank you, Jeff, and thank you for that. And I just want to get back. Chuck, are you with us?
Yes, I am, Sam.
Okay, well, Chuck, this is your comment, and I treasure this comment because I know that 2 years ago you were trying to write a book, and you were juggling everything, you and Renee. And, not getting personal in numbers. But the point is when can I write this book? When do I have time? And you took a new job and all that. And then we talked about getting on the software, and the rest I'll turn over to you.
Yeah, sure. So, yes, it's a little over 2 years ago now. You're right. It's funny because I'm reading that second bullet, and that went, as you say in there, we were preparing to buy another property. And, so the interesting thing is, since this comment was made, Renee and I have actually bought another property, and here's the really interesting thing: a lot's happened in that time frame, including loss of a job due to COVID-19. Renee lost her income, but the wonderful thing, Sam, and you mentioned it before, going back to that whole concept of if your money could talk. You know, every step of the way now and every challenge, we ask the software, we put the numbers in the software, and the software gives us the answers. And looking at that second bullet now, we actually have the second property. And here's the really, really interesting part. We were going to be debt free in 5.7 years with one property on 2 incomes. Now we have 2 properties on 1 income, an extra mortgage, and we're going to be debt-free in 6.7 years.
Amazing.
And
amazing.
And just tonight, we were talking about it. So it's open enrollment time at the company I work for, and we were talking about, maybe we'll take a little bit of money and put it into the 401k. Or do a Roth IRA, depending upon the matching program. And what about our health savings account, where we can take money pre-tax and use it towards anticipated medical expenses? So we asked the software by throwing a number in there that we thought made sense to us. and it went from 6.7 to 7.1 years debt free. So it added 4 months.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, you would never know that using a checkbook and a budget.
No,
Hey,
it's
hey, Chuck, this is Jeff. Let me ask you a different kind of a question. So that's excellent. I mean, all this matches up to what Sam's commenting. But based on what you just relayed with the loss of the income, if you did not have the software, what emotionally would be happening to the two of you?
well, it's funny that you say that because somewhere along the way in here, I actually chose to leave a job and find something that met my lifestyle more, which then went on to be able to write the book, Jeff. And yeah, I mean, the fact that we had the software, we actually were able to go into it and pull my income out and just see what the software said. And here's the best part. The software told us we were going to be okay. We were not going to be debt free in the time frame that we wanted to be, but it told us we were going to be able to survive. And it allowed us to make that decision to make a transition, which turned out to be just a wonderful transition for me personally, to be able to walk into a job opportunity which fit my lifestyle so much better, which then brought everything back down to around the 6-year mark, which is where I'm trying to keep it at. But as Sam said, it also afforded me the opportunity and the freedom and the time to write the book that I've been waiting to write for quite some time now. So pretty exciting.
What an interesting response, because it makes me wonder how many lifestyle coaches or any of that ilk could you have tried to go to that would have allowed you to have that peace of mind and be able to make that solid decision, truthfully.
I don't think there's one on the planet.
I would concur.
Yeah,
Well,
it's definitely exciting. Go ahead, Sam.
okay, well, thank you very much, Chuck. We really appreciate that. And, you know, I got your book. I actually bought 3 of them to give to family, friends, and it's really the recipe for inspired thinking and living. I'm just so glad that you are so happy. And you know what? You're not wealthy, but you are wealthy. By using this software, you're worth over $1 million because you're doing what you want to do, where you want to do it, and in the time frame that your goal is. That's pretty exciting.
Absolutely. I talk about it in the book. I call it living a rich life, rich in quotes, meaning rich, not just money in your pockets, but rich in all other aspects of your life as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Chuck. Appreciate you getting on for the time. And let's get together for lunch next week.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm waiting on you.
Okay. Thanks, Chuck. All right. So technology and math, not magic. This is pretty much the end of our program, but I want to show you a dashboard. This is what our software dashboard looks like. You will see, just as Chuck did, in this case, it says 11.7 years, they're debt free. In Chuck's case, it's 6.3. How about the actual date that it's going to happen? How about the years saved? 14.9 years, $207,000 of interest that is no longer going to be paid to banks. It's in their pocket. It's $1,483 a month. In fact, this is the most exciting thing. I spent 5 years on the mortgage. I wish I used this back then, and I could have. I turned this program down twice from 2003 to 2008. So I'm really smart and successful and broke, just using the connotation. So, but the effective rate would be, this person would have to go out, refinance everything at 1.61% to be equivalent to just managing their money using the software. Technology and math, not magic. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, Jeff.
Well, that was great. Thanks again, Sam and Chuck, for guesting today. And for sure, I would certainly encourage everybody to take advantage of getting that free analysis, because, you know, what's nice about it, Sam, is, you know, all you're trying to figure out is numbers. You don't care, you know, how many debts they've got, whether it's with Chase or this or that. You just need to know, I got a credit card 1, 2, 3, 4, and I owe this much, and here's the interest rate, and the math will not lie. And what's so awesome that, you and I could sit around and try to figure stuff out, but this thing can literally say you have a 30-year mortgage and a 10-year this and whatever. It will in one click figure out 30 years worth of math on a click.
Yep.
So that's
Yeah.
why Chuck is able to figure something out so thoroughly, to figure out, I mean, if I lost my income, you go panic stricken, but to just click in there and go, well, hey, look, my income's going to go to this. Now what? And the thing goes, oh, well, based on owing 30 years on this and this, man, this is what the outcome is. And you're like, awesome. Now I can sleep tonight and not be like beside myself day in and day out. So, and you offering the abilities for someone to find out for free what it would look like. So then, and they say, wow, this would be great. If you could make what I see on the screen right now come true, Sam, that would be awesome. And your response is, why don't we test drive it for 90 days and see what you think? Now
That's
you
right.
get, like you said, rather than reading it or seeing this on the screen, no, why don't we live it for a little bit and you'll prove to yourself that this is a reality. This is not some pipe dream, that this is going to happen for you. And what Chuck said is so realistic, because I've been engaged with this for many years and I see this all the time with people. I actually had a lot of couples that called me after multiple years. And they said, we love this so much. I said, yeah, because you're going to be out of debt next amount of time. They said, no, because you actually saved our marriage. And I never thought of it from that standpoint. I almost jokingly said, hey, I should hang out a shingle. I'm a marriage counselor. Let me see your checkbook. Let me see yours. They're like, the checkbook. Don't you want to talk to the two of us? I said, nope. I'm going to fix your money, and then everything else will mean nothing any longer. You won't care about the toothpaste tube cap being left off or whatever when you know you're in control of your money. So that's great,
that's
Sam.
great. All right. Well, thanks again, and we appreciate being part of Health, Wealth, and Freedom.